Okay, as you can see, we've taken a lunch break. We've been listening to the interview that police did with Billy Chemirmir after he was taken into custody. I'll be honest with you, he's really hard to understand, but what I could catch, he's claiming that sorry, I'm waiting on Rebecca Lopez to call me. I want to make sure she calls me. That he's basically saying that he sold stuff online through OfferUp, and that's how he came into possession of Lou Harris's jewelry box. And the detective says to him, and I wrote this down because I thought it was interesting, he says, it just doesn't make any sense what you're telling me. That's kind of what it boils down to, right? I mean, to believe his story, you have to believe that Lou Harris is in the Walmart at 3:27 p.m., she is found murdered at 5:50 p.m., and that in the space of that time, around that, when he gets caught, that he somehow comes into the possession of her keys, her jewelry box, her jewelry, all these other personal items, the keys that go into her front door. So it's a really difficult thing to believe. The other thing he said was that he had bought, so those $2 bills that were found in his possession. Lou Harris, she liked to give people $2 bills as gifts, and so he's found in the possession of these $2 bills, and he claims that he bought them from somebody else for $2.50, and then he was turning around to sell them for $3. And I mean, when you think about that really doesn't make just a whole lot of sense. And then, obviously throughout he is consistent in denying that, he was ever at Lou Harris's place. Police, they do tell him that they were following him, obviously, which was not true, but that's not an unusual interrogation tactic to tell a defendant something to try to get them to say something. Okay, that's Rebecca Lopez. Hold on a second, Rebecca. I'm going to take my mic off, and I'm going to put it on the phone so the folks can hear you.
Okay.
And there you go. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the morning started off with the judge eventually calling the media into the courtroom. All of us that were here at the courthouse, that's because apparently they were arguing, defense attorneys and prosecutors, about whether or not Billy Chemirmir should be allowed to wear a mask or not, because witnesses need to identify him. So there was this whole back and forth, and then eventually the judge said that she didn't. She went off the record, but only after about 20 minutes of this going back and forth between prosecutors and attorneys. And she never did make a ruling, but then asked the media at one point that from now on she's going to make it very clear on things that are supposed to be sidebars and things that are not supposed to be, that can be reported. So that's just, kind of a learning curve as we all navigate through having a camera in the courtroom with COVID, and how things are traditionally done in a courtroom. Then obviously they brought in the witnesses, the police detectives, showing the videos of Billy Chemirmir at that Walmart, and the victim as well, Lou Harris, there. And prosecutors on opening statement said this case is about three things: stalking, smothering, stealing. And they were going to show that he stalked his victims and then smothered them and then killed them and then stole their jewelry. And so they put them at the Walmart at the same time. That was very gripping video, because you see them there at the same time. And then obviously now they're showing the interrogation footage of when they bring in Billy Chemirmir. It's kind of hard to hear, but he keeps saying over and over, I didn't do it. I wasn't at that house. I wasn't there. It wasn't me. And he has different excuses as to how he had the victim's jewelry. For instance, that was found after he allegedly tossed the jewelry box in the dumpster, which police officers saw him do that. And, he goes on saying, look, somebody sold me the jewelry. Somebody sold me some $2 bills. There's been a lot made about the $2 bills that were found also. And he keeps saying, I was buying those $2 bills. They were antiques, and I was buying them for $2.50 and reselling them for $3. And the detective's like, well, you can go and get those at a bank for face value right now. So it's just kind of a little just over and over and over different angles as to why he ended up with the victim's possessions and how he got them.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to explain, given the tight timeline, how he could have come in the possession of those items.
Yes, and then the Tabor, who is a very experienced homicide detective, at one point when he's just asking Billy Chemirmir about, who are you, what's your background, he says, what do you do for a living? He says, I sell jewelry on OfferUp. That's what I do for a living. That's how I take care of my family. Well, at that point, a little further down, he realizes this guy is going to give incriminating information about himself, because we already know that he has sold jewelry. We've recovered some of that jewelry. So he read in his Miranda rights at that point and said, do you want, do you have the right to an attorney and all of that? And then he asked him later on, do you want an attorney? He's like, why do I need an attorney? I wasn't there. Put me inside that house. He's like, well, we are. We have the cell phone records, and we're going to put you in the vicinity at the time that this happened. And then he says, well, it wasn't, nobody else used this cell phone, so it's going to be hard to kind of wiggle around that. But then he says that the car he was driving was rented by a friend, and he gives different reasons as to why he was where he was and the timeline, and it just isn't matching with what the evidence that the detectives have.
Well, and when they say everything you say can and will be used against you, that really is true.
Yeah, that is, and that's why when he realized at that point that he's about to admit that he's selling, well, he has admitted even prior to the Miranda rights that he has been given, that he has been on OfferUp selling jewelry. That was, very telling. And Tabor, obviously, again, experienced. He says, look, we want to slow down here, because he realizes that he's going into an area of questioning that could incriminate himself.
Rebecca, are you getting any sense of how much longer we're going to go, or who might be next, or if they're done with Tabor?
I mean, I feel like they're going to be done with Tabor. I mean, the medical examiner has already testified, although they did say that there's going to be a couple of witnesses that are going to be able to come in and testify that they saw Chemirmir that day. So I don't know if they're bringing people from the Walmart or who they're bringing in, but that was what the whole mask issue was about, because one of the witnesses they say that is going to testify is someone that spoke to him for about 15 minutes on the day of the murder, and so and they said, is he going to be able to see who Billy Chemirmir is? Will he be able to recognize him in the courtroom if he's got a mask on? So that's what that whole debate was this morning with the prosecutors and the defense attorneys. So we do know that they do plan on bringing some other witnesses that are not police officers. But I feel like they're going to wrap their case up today.
Well, and we also haven't heard from, right now, if you're the jury, you think it's just Mary Bartell and you think it's Lou Harris, right? If you haven't, if you've done something you shouldn't do, which is go look at coverage. So, I don't know if are we going to hear about the Richardson case that the prosecutor mentioned in his opening?
We possibly might, and also they're going to, in opening statements, they said that they were going to present the cell phone evidence, and and I know that over the years as we've covered these trials that can be kind of cumbersome, and that testimony can be tedious because they walk through all the data dump that they get and the information. So that is probably going to be a witness that's going to be on the stand for quite some time, and that is literally pinpointing him at the exact places at the time that at least two of these victims died. And so they're going to go through the cell phone records. So I feel like there's still a little bit more testimony to go.
Well, and I think we're also going to hear, we mentioned in openings that they're going to have like him selling stuff on OfferUp from the victims. So I think we'll hear about that too.
Yeah, I agree. So, but I do feel that it will, I feel like it will go to the jury by tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, that's certainly what I'm thinking is going to happen. All right, Rebecca. Well, I will let you go have some lunch, and I'm going to go have some lunch, and we'll talk again. So I appreciate it. Thanks for calling in.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. Go ahead, Nick. Okay, folks. Well, we heard from Rebecca Lopez. She has been at the courthouse during this entire trial. Hopefully by the time we have our next trial, we'll be able to have her actually show her on video, and rather than me trying to take my mic off and put it down on my phone, but we make it work. So join us, stay with us, and we'll be back as soon as we restart after lunch. Thank you.